All right, we're back on sports. But you know what? It's been a good week for sports. Good weekend as well. A lot of fighting this weekend. But I have to start off with football. Because, again, the fuck is wrong with y'all Eagles fans? What's wrong with y'all? I don't understand. Look, I understand that people are getting excited because certain players are being released and it's possible we can have them. But I told y'all about this before, didn't I? I told you, what y'all doing right now, what y'all have done this previous week has proven me right yet again. You will try and find any bit of drama, even if it means creating the shit out of thin air in order to argue for a week over bullshit. Alright? I've seen it on Twitter long enough this week. I've seen people complain about bad Eagles takes because I put it like this. By the time that the draft comes up, alright, everybody and their mom going to be a GM. Everybody. Alright? It's absolutely pathetic to see what's going on. Now, I understand that people are starting to freak out due to the fact that they're seeing rumors, all right, about, was it Matthews maybe getting traded? Let's get something straight here. They're rumors. You understand that, right? They're rumors. That means nothing. That's what it means. And they do this, the media does this every season coming up. And you fall for it every fucking season, don't you? Don't you? You take the bait every time. Look, I'll put it like this, all right? It's best that a lot of you with these really horrible takes I've seen, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Just shut up and wait. That's all you have to do. I understand that you don't have shit else better to talk about because a lot of you aren't Philly fans, so you don't talk about Sixers, you don't talk about Flyers, you don't talk about us, you just talk about Eagles, Eagles, Eagles. I get it, alright? But you have to understand that if there's no Eagles news, it doesn't mean that you have to create Eagles news in order to have some type of conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles. That's pathetic. That's actually pretty childish. But you have to understand also that these people have not, like I said, you've proven me right when I said about you last season about this and being drama queens and looking for problems. Like I said, gotta create them now. So, as far as I'm concerned, when this is going on, because everyone's talking about, our wide receivers, like I said, don't trust the media. You know better to trust Philly media, okay? But there's more, all right? The Jets have released Brandon Marshall, all right? I personally say, go after him. Go after him. We need some receivers, all right? Like I said, we covered, Deshaun Jackson last week, and y'all already know how I feel about that situation since he's using both sides. Also, I believe Cooks is there's a chance that he could come to the Eagles. I say if you can, get them both. Depending on what's going on, Brandon Marshall's already said he'll play for really cheap. He said that. For some reason, I'm seeing a lot of people wanting Terrell Pryor. Why would you want Terrell Pryor? Because of what he did in Cleveland one year? No. If you look at some of those games where Terrell Pryor is being shut down, should I remind people what happened last season with Terrell Pryor and Pac-Man Jones? Do I need, when he shut him the fuck down, all they did was talk shit to each other? Should I remind you this? No? Okay. Look, if the Jets want to get rid of him, that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, we can offer him, even if it's a 1 year, that's fine with me. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'm not going to get into the hot take situation with the rest of these other idiots have done and what we'll give up for certain draft picks for certain players. Stop. Just stop. Like I said, the draft is coming. It's going to get worse from here on out when it comes to the draft. Like I said, by then, everyone will be an expert, right? This is how it happens every season. This is why I say it's pathetic that Eagles fans act this way. Whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, wherever you go, they act this way. It's online. You know, they don't do this shit in the real world. You know what's that shit? You don't see Eagles fans walking by, oh my God, we may get rid of Matthews. Nah, you don't see that shit, do you? Nah. People real cool about it. That's why I said the real world, when it comes to being an Eagles fan, is completely different than this shit. Completely fucking different. That's what I said. A lot of these people, they faking it right now. They are. They faking it. You gonna sit on the line for hours on top of hours on top of hours to argue about a made-up situation that could happen to the team? Fake. Fake. Let's keep going, shall we? I want to talk about Adidas. That's right. For those who don't know, NFL Combine has been going on, and we've seen some hilarious things from the Combine. But this is what bothers me the most out of the Combine, okay? Adidas offers an island, all right, to NFL Combine prospects who can break the 40 record, right? So let me get this straight, Adidas. You can't help basketball courts in inner cities get renovated, but you can offer a fucking island to someone who's going to break the 40 record. But there's more, all right? When the 40 record is broken, right? Wide receiver John Ross breaks the 40 record. He had a 4.22, right? He broke the record. But Adidas won't give him the island. You want to know why? Because the wide receiver who broke, let's say John Ross, who broke the record, didn't do it in Adidas shoes. Nope. He did it in Nike cleats. So because of that, he can't get the island. All right? Look. You would think Nike would come along and be like, yo, we'll give you something. You know what I mean? But hey, I find that really hilarious. And the thing is, I'm very disappointed in Adidas due to the fact that, listen, I'm a huge fan of Adidas. I like their footwear. Very light, especially for basketball. Very good stuff. For running, very good stuff. I really depend on Adidas for this type of stuff. But when you make a move like this, and you can't help, you know what I mean? You can't help cities and sponsor the right things to make sports grow, as opposed to offering an island, to someone who can break a 40 record. That's fucking pathetic. And whoever decides to bring that up to make that type of, contest, they should be fired as far as I'm concerned. Your money could be used so much better in so many different ways to keep it going. You're not thinking long term. Clearly you're not. I want to move on. Some wacky news today, man. We're going to go local real quick. I need to talk about the EPL. Now, with the EPL, there's not that much news this week because Chelsea plays today. So I'll get a chance to somewhat sit down and watch some of it due to the fact that I got to go to work. But, it's really weird to see what has happened here locally when it comes to the EPL. Now, as you know, for those who are in Philly, there are certain areas that you go to that they do not watch EPL, okay? Let alone support certain teams, okay? Because there is rivalry within every neighborhood. If you don't know, every neighborhood when it comes to sports, it doesn't just have to be, football. So, I mean, it could be basketball, be whatever. People have a big problem. This is why I've always said it, time after time. When I see people walking around with Brooklyn Nets on, remember at their height of their popularity when Jay-Z was around, and all of a sudden, people had Sixers gear on, and then they just switched to Brooklyn Nets gear. It pissed a lot of people off. I was like, no, that's fucked up. You see this on the street now. Same thing when people was wearing Flyers gear, and then when the Blackhawks started winning, everyone was wearing Blackhawks gear. So they were just bandwagoning. They were front running. We saw a lot of people front running, and it wasn't cool because, like I said, in every neighborhood you have these type of rivalries. Well, going down Port Richmond, right, to go food shopping. Apparently, they put in this grocery store an extension that has a bar, and they decided to support all 5 of the top teams in the EPL. I don't even know how you do that. This right here is absolutely pathetic. And I say this due to the fact that, for those who don't know, this grocery store that's been upgraded in Port Richmond, you have to understand that this area specifically has been gentrified really hard. Like, the hipsters have come in, and they've walked in here and tried to take over everything. But what you're failing to realize is that this area is predominantly Mexican, which means they don't watch EPL. You will see Team Mexico flags everywhere in this area. That's the team that is supported. They don't even watch EPL. So for this store to try and come in and bring in all these banners for, Premier League, and then as you can see at the end, oh yeah, and Philadelphia Union, which you see me do every once in a while as well. Premier League, Philadelphia Union. We've talked about this before, have we not? When certain teams clash when it comes to Premier League and they come to Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Union play them, I see a lot of people taking off their Philadelphia Union jerseys to support that Premier League team. Man U was the biggest one. Remember, and I got pissed off about that, which is why I hate Man U. But there's more, okay? You have to understand, when this happened, of course, I talked to some people in the area, and I showed them the picture, and they were quite upset about that because, like I said, it is a territory thing, but they understand it's a supermarket. You can't just go in there and start wrecking shit, you know what I mean? But they understand. But even they were like, they thought it was laughable. I took to Twitter about it, and when I talked to you guys and girls about it on Twitter, you were saying, they're even fake banners, like they're bootleg banners. They don't have the real banners up. What are they doing? So it seems like on both ends, whether you're a fan of EPL, depending on those teams, rivalry, but you're mad at the authentication of how they try to go about things, and then you have the people who are actually in that neighborhood who are just like, this is a joke because we're not an EPL area. There's Team Mexico, live or die. So it's really interesting to see that they tried to do something and it just didn't work out. However, they had a lot of beer. As you can see, lots of imported beer. That's not even the whole thing. If I were paying back more, you'd see even more. But lots of imported beer. So, it's just really weird week this week, but we're going to move on. We need to talk about basketball because we have some basketball news. And I guess we should talk about the Griffin Force Flop of the Week, which also goes to the damn NBA. Seriously, why, at this point, start ejecting people.
And Corey Brewer. Now watch it right there. Okay, now he catches him with that shot. Now you look at that and you say, well, he did.
Get ejected. Please get ejected. Because as far as I'm concerned, I told y'all last season that the Rockets are a flopping-ass team. And it seems like they haven't learned a lesson to this season, have they? I'm so done with this as far as I'm concerned. You can't tell me a grown-ass man, he barely gets touched across his chest, and he's going to throw himself that fuck. Come on. Stop. Stop, man. Come on. But more news of the NBA. Oh my God. Adam Silver says that he's going to reset the All-Star Game so that it's competitive. Adam Silver, here's the thing. You just got finished complaining that people aren't watching the regular season, okay? And that you had a plan to charge people for, the last 2 minutes of the game? That's what will get them to watch the game. As opposed to the All-Star Game, which nobody cares about, okay? It doesn't matter if the All-Star Game is competitive, because your festivities are horrible, all right? The celebrity game, why do you even have it? Why? There's no point, all right? The slam dunk contest is a fucking joke, unless you have, like I said, this year was embarrassing. Due to the fact that your champion, of course, he's injured, he's out, he's out. But nobody had any type of creativity. The three-point contest this year was okay. It was alright. It wasn't great, but it was okay. You know what I mean? It was watchable. And the skills challenge was embarrassing as well, due to the fact that the bigs outshine the guards. So as far as I'm concerned, the weekend in general, it's a wash. I don't understand how you can sit here and say, well, we're just going to tweak the All-Star Game because it can be more competitive. Look, just because you saw Steph Curry jump on the ground and hold his head like this while the Greek Freak wanted to make a dunk doesn't mean that it's not competitive. It's not going to be competitive. No matter what you do, it's not going to be competitive. These dudes have gotten to the point where they've become comfortable. The All-Star Game, as generations, the previous, 2 generations or so, have been more of a vacation. That's what it's been. The All-Star Game is now comparable to the NFL Pro Bowl. No one's going to take it seriously. It's just for vacation. They're just there. That's their time to relax, since they play so many games before the All-Star Game. That's the message that's been sent, okay? But if you want to make the product better, you want to make it more competitive, you can start by getting rid of the flopping. You can start by looking at your referees and those bad calls. You can start by looking at, because for those who don't know, when refs make calls, when they got to go do reviews, I've talked about this before last season, how they have their booth, and they actually have a center of people who actually watch these replays to make sure it's okay, and you still get the fucking call wrong. Adam Silver, there's a number of problems you have with the NBA, and you're looking at the All-Star Game. Okay. Regular season, nobody's watching it. We'll charge them. What you're doing is not the answer for quality product. It's not. And if you think that these things are going to bring fans back, it's ridiculous. I mean, let's take a look at the landscape here. The Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially the Cavs, this season, all they keep doing is building more pieces. Darren Williams just went there. Bogut just went there. Like, they're just building pieces on top of pieces. And of course, this is when LeBron, every time he starts losing it or they get into a slump, he says, I need playmakers. I need playmakers to win. So, as far as I'm concerned, Golden State on the West, all right? The West have maybe 2 or 3 teams that can possibly compete with Golden State, all right? Other than that, Golden State, they're going to be in the finals again. In the East, who's going to compete with the Cavs? Don't tell me Boston. Don't tell me Boston, okay? We're seeing people fighting. Miami and Detroit are fighting for that AC spot so hard. You don't have anybody who can really run with the Cavs, especially in the postseason. We saw it last season, did we not? They went damn near on a sweep, didn't they? Okay. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to see the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, I said last year, about the next 2-3 years. But if they keep stacking these teams, you may see them for the next 4 or 5. All right? Especially in the ailing East. I'll put it like this. You may see the Cavs in the finals until LeBron just gets old and just gets tired and says, I'm done with this. The teams that you're seeing in the East are not getting the right move. They're not making the right moves to stack right in order to keep going. But as you can see, everyone's running to the Cavs. We saw the Cavs offer a number of things for a point guard. And what happened? Now you got Darren Williams. Like, I don't know. Darren Williams just falls in your fucking lap. Darren Williams. Come on. Like I said, at this point, the NBA has a lot of problems because it's not competitive. It's not. It has a lot more problems than the All-Star Game. A lot more. But let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about more basketball. And this is in the NBA. This is weird. Pizza Hut. That's right, Pizza Hut. You know, where you order pizza? Yeah. They're making a basketball shoe that can order pizza while you're wearing them. I don't know why they made a basketball shoe. I don't know. But why do I feel that sneakerheads, the limited release, they're going to be out there camping out for them? I don't know. I'll play this. The sad part about this shoe is it almost looks like the old Dr. J 2000s. That Converse made. Like, yeah, this is really weird. I don't know. But we'll see what happens with this. But the only reason I saw this is because on Twitter, they actually have a commercial for it. It was like they're going to change the landscape of basketball. And I'm like, what? So I had to look into this. You know what I mean? It was a promoted tweet. And y'all know I hate promoted tweets. But that one, I had to look into. I was like, what is this? So yeah, speaking of basketball, more basketball, just Pizza Hut. I don't know. I don't know Pizza Hut. Anyways, speaking of basketball, let's get on to the Philadelphia 76ers because, as we know, they suck. All right? And they've won, over 20 plus games now, and they still suck. Now, of course, as of late, because certain players are out, because they're trying to say, well, you know, Henderson's out. That's a big deal. Henderson. Yeah, okay. Okafor's out. That's a big deal. No, it's not. And let me speak about Okafor real quick, all right? We saw not too long ago, over the week, right, that Okafor was not playing defense. We saw that, all right? And Okafor's excuse for that was, well, I was fatigued. That's what he said. So now I have to ask, why the fuck are you fatigued? Because you haven't played all season. So what are you so tired from? If we go back and you look at that defense, his knees aren't bent, so he's not looking to attack. He's looking to retreat. He's backing up. His legs are straight. He's not making a play, whether it's to block the ball or to grab a rebound. As you know, you have to bend your knees. He's not doing anything. His body language as of late says enough. Now look, I've defended Okafor during his injury this season and saying you got to give him a chance, get these guys together to see if they can play. But when you start making excuses about being fatigued, and you haven't really played all season, I'm not trying to hear that your recovery process was that intense either. I'm not trying to hear that, okay? Not. You're not playing 40 minutes out there, all right? So I'm not trying to hear that. As far as I'm concerned, it's time for him to go. Because if this is how he's going to act, then there's no reason of keeping him, okay? He looks like he's really slow out there. I understand that he's probably still, like I said, the knee's probably still ailing, but he doesn't look like he wants to be out there. Say his body language tells you something completely different. It does. It seems he gets frustrated quickly now when they call foul on him, as opposed to last season. It's almost like he doesn't care. And I put it like this. I can understand morale is low due to the fact that, the Sixers aren't playing well. I get it, all right? I get that. But that's not enough. You get paid to play this game, all right? You're getting paid millions and millions of dollars. If anything, you should be going out there with a smile on your face, ready to play every damn night. I'm not trying to hear you're fatigued at all. I wanted to be traded, but they didn't trade me. Well, too bad, isn't it? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm done hearing about Okafor. It's time for him to go, all right? Now, let's move on to Sark, all right? For those who don't know as of late, he is the rookie of the month for the East. And the Sixers are trying to plug this. And they're like, yeah, he's first in minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, he's first in minutes because of the fact that you traded Ilyasova. Because when Ilyasova was out on the court, Sark was sitting his ass down. He wasn't really playing that many minutes, all right? He wasn't. He was averaging still, though, about, 11 points or whatever. Now he's averaging about 17 points a game, which is understandable because he's just playing on his own. He doesn't have anyone else out there when you have all these guys injured. That's what it is. But understand that the media is going to make sure that they plug this man. And I'm trying to figure out, why the fuck are you plugging this man when the Sixers are getting their asses kicked in? Yeah, getting destroyed by Detroit, who's fighting for the AC spot. And you think I give a shit if Dario Saric is playing well when we're losing like that? Matter of fact, once again I told y'all, Detroit and Miami are fighting for the AC spot. Earlier in the week, Miami destroyed the Sixers as well. Like I said, nobody cares about individual merit or efforts when it comes to that, when the team is losing that fucking bad. Don't sit here and tell me that's okay. But there's more. There's more, all right? Because this is how the media is, all right? They want to keep plugging this thing. Now, look, as of late, we've talked about for a whole fucking season, haven't we? Joel Embiid, as we know, he is now out for the entire season. All right? Out for the entire season. I've been telling you guys and girls for how long? Shut him down before the All-Star Game and let him rest for the season to get ready for next season. Did I not say that? Okay. Well, the Sixers have shut him down. Now, here's the funny part. Because everyone kept saying, let him go to the All-Star Game, let him, partake in the activities, the festivities, let him be in the Royal Rumble and all this other bullshit. Fans who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, which is why I can't take Sixers fans, especially online, a lot of them, I can't take them seriously. It's like I said, it's like they don't play basketball, they don't know basketball. That's what it feels like. However, I will say this, all right? Because I have to keep bringing this up, all right? Because listen, the way the media tries to sell you things. Last week, I showed you this, and I want to show you this again because I want to talk about the media and the way the organization has treated Embiid on this situation. Because as we know, Embiid is out for the season. But remember when the media just said not too long ago that because he was dancing, that his knee looked okay, and I questioned that? Remember that? Let's look at that again. Again, I'm trying to figure out why this writer isn't fired. Seriously, get fired. But, there's more. If you looked at the bottom of that, it said that the team, the organization, was treating his injury day to day, knowing it was a tear. I don't understand how you treat this day to day. You don't. Clearly, they were holding it back because ticket sales, they didn't want anything to happen, and we will talk about that in a minute, okay, about ticket sales, because Sixers fans, I'm feeling bad for you right now. No, you know what? No, I'm not going to feel bad for you. I'm not. Because if you were stupid enough to buy into this and you still went ahead and did it, you deserve it. Okay? And I'll put that link in the info bar. We'll talk about it in a minute. All right? But you have to understand, the organization has been holding a lot of things back. And we used to, as Philly fans, you know what I'm talking about right now. What I'm about to talk about. We used to get on the flyers, all right, for concealing injuries. They would just tell you a player would have an upper body injury or a lower body injury. They wouldn't tell you any details. They wouldn't tell you what is exactly wrong with the player, right? And it would piss off a lot of fans, all right? So, for the Sixers to tell you the injury in detail, all right, anyone who knows anything about tears and stuff like that, you know it's a big problem. And say, he's not going to have surgery, we're just going to let it heal naturally. What the fuck made you think that it was going to be day to day? It's a tear. And so what if he danced on stage? The man said himself, again, that he wasn't healthy. He said it himself. He wasn't healthy. So, the writing was on the wall. But Sixers fans still didn't want to believe it, all right? Now that, the Sixers have shut him down for the season, I'm just waiting for all these drones to eat their crow. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for it. Especially on Twitter. I'm waiting for it. But there's more. That's right. I told you, how long ago, that they were going to try and plug, like I said, if you look at the seasons that's going on, poster boys for next season. Remember, first you had MCW, right? Then it was Noel. Noel's gone. Then last season it was Okafor. Then, this season, it was Embiid, right? So how do you think that this is going to play out next season? I've already told you before. Once again, they are banking on your hype for Simmons for next season. Now, here's the rub. Are you ready? Are you ready? They've already announced. Next season, people have already been hit. All right? Dramatic price increase for season tickets. That's right. So, Sixers fans, all right? Because for those who don't know, all week, if you haven't been watching the Sixers games, they've been celebrating season ticket holders. And all the season ticket holders were from this season because they didn't have any season ticket holders. So at halftime, like I said, you have to watch NBA League Pass. That's when you see all this stuff because everything else is commercial on regular TV on CSN. You see these things. You get to see the dance squad. You get to see the halftime festivities. You get to see all we're going to bring out the season ticket holders and let them do the half-court shots and all that. NBA, I'm telling you, the season pass, even if you catch a stream of it, it's a lot better than watching it on CSN. A lot better, all right? But you have to understand that now they're going to have a dramatic price increase for season ticket holders. Do you understand this? First off, let's get something straight here. Embiid has played about, 32 games of an entire season? 32, 33 games around there? Of an entire season total, all right? Guy was injured last year, didn't play at all. 32 games, that's all it took for you to jump out of your seats and go crazy. Does he have potential? Yes, but he's not healthy. And you should know by now, when some shit like this happens, you know the media is going to throw him under the bus now. Because you should know the question that's going to come next, right? You know it, right, sports fans? You know it, right? Or do I have to tell you? I'll tell you, okay? Here's the question that the media is going to start posing. Is Joel Embiid franchise enough? Is he the player to be a franchise player, to build around? Because he's consistently injured. Can we bank on him? That's going to be the question. Guaranteed, media will start running that. If they haven't already. Guaranteed. You should know how this goes. And here's the thing. When it comes to media, some of you, as of late, have started retweeting a lot of, like I said, a lot of you retweet a lot of stuff that I see on Twitter, whether it's media or whatever, or people with really bad takes. But you decide to retweet that idiot, Sean Brace, okay? And you already know how I feel about him. You already know what he's done between him and I. So, yeah, fuck him. But here's the thing, all right? When the Sixers beat the Knicks, right? Which, if anyone watched that game straight up, the Sixers technically got away with one due to the fact that when Derrick Rose was fouled, they showed it from multiple angles from slow motion. He was fouled right across his chest, all right? And they still awarded the ball to the Sixers, which made no fucking sense. Made no sense whatsoever, okay? And even the commentators was like, yeah, they gave us one and we'll take it. Because they knew the refs were wrong. They knew, all right? But the fact is, Sean Brace had the gall to come out and be like, ha ha ha, we beat the Knicks. How you like it, Knicks fans? And I'm thinking to myself, if this man knew anything about basketball, which he doesn't, I told y'all before, he doesn't know anything about the inner city in basketball. I showed you clips of him trying to take foul shots and airball them. The guy doesn't know shit about basketball, can't play basketball, and that's in Philly, let alone know anyone from New York, all right? Ha ha ha, Knicks fans, how do you feel? Too bad he didn't realize that Knicks fans, if anyone's been following, knows any Knicks fans or anything, they wanted the Sixers to beat them. Why? Because for anybody who's been following New York Knicks basketball, you know right now the big fight is between Knicks fans and Phil Jackson. And every time the Knicks lose, they dig into Phil Jackson just a bit more because they want him fucking gone. And Dolan, they want both of them gone. So, anybody who wants to sit here like a stupid fan and be like, ha ha ha, the Sixers beat the Knicks, how do you feel? It's always great to beat New York. New York didn't care. They were happy. Stupid asses. But these are the people that you want to keep, you want to keep promoting. These are the people you want to keep supporting. People who don't know shit about the sport or the fan bases, but they quick to run their mouth. Yeah. Yeah. Gotta love that shit. Anyways, let's move on past basketball, and let's talk about this weekend when it came to fighting. That's right. Boxing. Let's talk boxing first, all right? As you know, over in London, David Haye fought Bellew. And David Haye got knocked out. He got knocked through the ropes in the 11th round. And it got to the point where, mind you, just like B-Hop, got caught in the temple, fell out the ring. David Haye got back in the ring, was ready to fight. However, his corner threw in the towel. Now, let's talk about this for a bit, because for anyone who watched the fight in full, David Haye was so gassed. All right? It's pathetic. It got to a point where he was fighting like this, then all of a sudden he was fighting like this, then all of a sudden he was fighting like this. That's right. Hands behind his fucking back and putting his head forward. And Blue's just hitting him with jabs, peppering with jabs, and he's just taking it. He's taking it. And I'm thinking to myself, you have to understand in boxing there is a machismo thing. There is. But you're technically losing rounds and giving up points for taking punches in the face. I don't care if the punches don't hurt, all right? Judges aren't looking to see the damage. Judges are looking to see the contact, all right? That's what it is. When you look at your stats, your scorecards, it's punches thrown as opposed to percentage that's landed. Doesn't matter how hard it's landed. So if he's peppering you with jabs left and right, and you're just sitting there like this and taking punches, you're giving rounds away. That's what you're doing. In the 8th round, I felt this fight was over. Because there was no point. There was no coming back from that. You know what I mean? Not to mention the knockdown and all that, but there was no coming back from it. Now, after all was said and done, of course, Haye lost. And they had quite a great back and forth commentary. I have to say this now, all right? When they do interviews with British boxers over there, it's 10 times better than over here in the U.S. I mean, the British boxers just like, I don't give a shit. I literally saying, I don't give a shit. This is what I'm going to say. And they'll let you know what's going on. And the fact that that man's wife was crying because he let it be known. His wife was crying because she felt as though he was going to get killed in the ring with Hay, because David Hay told him he was going to put him in the hospital, during the interviews before, the build up to the fight. He was talking trash. Told him he's going to put him in the hospital. Had that man's wife crying. That's crying. And he had to tell her, look, everybody says that. It's all part of, the gimmick. It's all part of the show. That's what it is. But she really believed it. And I guess, that's a good thing that it was believed because it sells tickets. But to put that wife in that type of shock, and he has kids and all, he was talking about retiring afterwards. He said he doesn't want to keep doing this due to the fact that he's not going to be able, when you go against guys like that, you never know what's going to happen. He may not see his kids grow up. So it was a really interesting interview after the fight. And this is in ring. So much respect to over there. Like I said, I've noticed a lot as of late when it comes to British boxing, the way they conduct their interviews, as opposed to American boxing, where they'll ask you how you felt about it, how do you see the knockdown, who do you want to fight next? You know what I mean? Like that's the top three things they ask you right away. You know what I mean? They don't really let you go into detail that much unless you really go on. And most boxers, as you know here in America, they'll talk about okay, I hope my opponent's okay, but let me give a shout out to blah 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 blah. We see it all the time. You know what I mean? Where this guy actually took the time out to talk about these things. Tyson Fury did the same thing when they interviewed him. Took the time out to talk about actual subjects. You know what I mean? So my respect for the interviews when it comes to British boxers over there has gone up significantly. You know what I mean? It's something I'm starting to see more consistently, and I like it more. Moving on to that night when it came to Garcia Thurman, right? I guess we can talk about this because we need to talk about Lubin versus Cota. And I talk about this due to the fact that Cota deserved to get knocked out. He deserved to. I want to show you some slides. The fact that this man does not know how to fight. He doesn't. I don't know how you get this far. And here's the thing, okay? This is the fight before a title fight for each, okay? I don't know how you get this far in amateurs and pro boxing with your hands down so low. It's not just the fact that when you're in guard, guys fight like this all the time. But when you're throwing a punch and your guard hand is down at your hip, it is a problem. Never covered his face. So yes, overhand left, destroyed him, and put him out for the night. Second round. Look, I put it like this, alright? What's the third round? I don't know. Either way, he got knocked the fuck out, and he deserved to. You can't tell me that you're not going to guard your face the entire fight. He tried to fight Lubin's fight at one point by matching him with southpaw. But he's not athletically or even technically there to fight southpaw. You have to understand, this is a brawler versus a boxer. Lubin is a boxer. He kept his distance and fought his fight. This guy wanted to fight inside because he doesn't have the technical skill to actually box. That's what if you didn't notice, he's fighting flat foot. When he's fighting up his back foot first off. So every punch is like he's stepping up like this, and then he comes forward to throw a punch, which makes no sense to me. You can't fight on your back foot like that, because if a guy comes forward and actually hits you with a good combination, you're going to fall over because of 50-50 distribution. You don't have enough base and plant on your back foot to take those type of punches. Meaning, if your foot is bent and you're going backwards, that means that you're putting more weight on your back leg that will technically knock you over with momentum. That's not good, which is why you have to stay 50-50 at all times. Because if you distribute too much, you go 60-40 forward, and you throw a punch and miss, you're wide open, okay? That's what happens. These are things that you know technically in boxing that you should be looking for. This guy, I don't know how he got this far. I don't understand. I'm watching this fight, and I'm like, dude, this guy's going to get killed. And he got knocked out. He deserved to get knocked out because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And I put like this. Maybe it's not just him. Maybe we got to look back and we got to look at the corner, the trainer. Because you can't tell me that was okay for you to let that guy go out there and fight that type of fight. To even, like I said, not even holding his hands up. That's rule number one. Keep your hands up. And he didn't even do that. So it was almost like he was asking to get knocked out. And the thing is, the commentators were like, well, you know, this is going to be Lubin's, his toughest fight to date. I didn't see that. I thought this was a walkthrough for him. Because if a guy's not going to keep his hands up, it's a sign. You might as well put a sign around his neck that says, punch me. Knock me out. That's what it is. And of course, we move on to the Garcia-Thurman fight. Garcia-Thurman, was very interesting. I played this. First off, for those who don't know, this was great for boxing due to the fact that it wasn't a pay-per-view. It was on free TV, and I believe they took primetime slot that night. I believe they had 2.2 million viewers or something like that. So this is good for boxing. We used to see this all the time with boxing when we were kids, where you have these big fights, and they were put on regular TV on Saturdays, whether it was the afternoon or in the evening. All right, so this was great for boxing. They did a great job. Garcia versus Thurman. All right. I don't understand what Danny Garcia was thinking. I don't. Because he wasn't aggressive enough. He didn't push the pace enough. And granted, we saw Thurman at the first, I'm going to say 3 or 4 rounds. Thurman came out, he was a stalker. He was the aggressor. He was looking to take his head off, okay? Then mid-rounds came in, and Thurman kind of I guess, it felt like Garcia had figured him out. Because Garcia's defense was on point. Every time on point. Can't take anything away from Garcia's defense. But his offense that's what was lacking. We saw Thurman always backpedaling a lot in this fight. I'll say, and especially the last 2 rounds, he was on his bike and he was just going. He was like, I'm not gonna fight. But Garcia showed that he could stay with Thurman. That Thurman was not going to knock him out. Thurman hit him some big shots in the beginning, but Garcia adjusted, and then Garcia, had his own good shots. He was a lot of shots to the body, which I don't think people realize just how damaging shots to the body can be. Shots to the body, that quick left hook. There was times where he would, come in with that, that kind of clipping right, almost like a check with his right hook. He did a really good job, I felt. I just felt as though he wasn't busy enough, and that's what lost him the fight. All right, but also it depends on the judges, because it depends on who you're watching, depends on what style you like as well. Garcia, like I said, Garcia showed a lot of great head movement, a lot of great footwork, and a lot of defense, especially from the mid-rounds on to the end. He showed that. He was trying to stalk Thurman. I don't think he did a good enough job cutting off the ring, but he was chasing him. He was. Now, I have to bring this up because you have to understand, Garcia had a fight like this a couple years back, against Peterson, where I thought Peterson beat him, and it was the same style, but they gave it to Garcia, and Garcia was like, oh, he ran so much and it didn't matter. So Peterson lost that fight, even though I thought Peterson won. Thurman did the same thing, but Thurman won this fight. Now we can go back, because the commentators brought up, the history of this type of thing when it comes to big fights being on free TV or whatever. And they talked about how we haven't had a unification like this in a long time. We haven't seen something like this since De La Hoya versus Trinidad. And that's the thing. It's interesting they bring that up, because this literally is De La Hoya versus Trinidad. Because, remember, De La Hoya was beating Trinidad in that fight. He was outboxing him. And in those last couple rounds, De La Hoya took off. He got on his bike as well and felt he won. And they gave the fight to Trinidad due to the fact that, again, they felt he was being the aggressor and he was stalking. Regardless what those punch stats said, because as we know, punch stats at times can be deceiving. However, this is the same thing, again, happened. Garcia was fighting Thurman. Thurman did enough to win the fight. But near the end, he was running away. All right? And they still gave the fight to Thurman. Still. Now, if you go back and you look at those later rounds to the De La Hoya Trinidad, as opposed to the later rounds to Garcia Thurman, fucking identical. It's crazy. So it's very interesting to see how this fight turned out. I'm hoping that we get a rematch of this. This was a really fun fight to watch. Garcia took the loss in stride. He did it like a professional. His dad, however, did not. For those who have not seen what his dad's been saying about Thurman, about how Thurman's not a man, he ran, he not from Philly, he don't have a big dick. Like just going off, dude. Damn! Yeah, what man talks about another man's... Okay, alright, whatever, alright? But, yeah, so this is... I feel as though this is something that's to be continued. We need to see another one. And it's interesting because they talked to Sean Porter not too long ago, was it before the fight? And he talked about how... Because they asked Porter, he was like, why didn't you guys have a rematch after, Porter versus Thurman? And he was just like, it just wasn't in the cards, and he wanted to do something else, and Porter moved on. And as we know, Porter's getting ready to fight Berto. Porter's going to kill Berto. He's going to fucking kill him. But the fact is, it's really interesting. Earl Spence Jr. was there, who I've talked about a lot on video, and he wanted to fight the winner between Thurman and Garcia. But he's got to fight Kell Brook. So as far as I'm concerned, he's got a fight on his hands. You know what I mean? And he's got to win that title first. Because no one's going to give Spence Jr. the respect yet unless he wins a title. You have to understand, he's still young in this game, even though he's a phenomenal fighter. He's one of those guys, like I said before, him and Lomachenko are special fighters. Those are guys that come around, once in a lifetime. They're just special fighters. And I feel as though these are special fighters. Spence Jr. doesn't have the experience behind him yet, so a lot of fighters aren't going to take it, that seriously. They're not. Like Garcia and Thurman said, because he was like, I want to fight you guys, and they said, you haven't been through any wars yet. That's what they said. You know what I mean? These guys have been in the fight game for like a decade, as opposed to, Spence has just been there for 2 years, even though he's just, meteorically on the rise. And, let him fight Kell Brook as far as I'm concerned. Let him get that fight out the way. If he wins, then he can make a legit case about himself, because then he will be a title holder. Then he can say, hey, I want to fight Thurman, and once again, unification. I'm telling you, the welterweight division is what's happening right now. And if you're not watching the welterweight division when it comes to boxing, there's something wrong with you. There is. Also, some more boxing news, okay? Manny Pacquiao, I don't even know if I'm going to watch this fight. Because as far as I'm concerned, Manny Pacquiao took the easy route in this fight. He should have fought Crawford. And you backed out. No. This is not the way. I guess it's hurrah, you want to pick your fights. I get it. But, a lot of people used to jump on Floyd Mayweather for ducking fighters. And then Floyd started going after people like Canelo and stuff like that. You start seeing that he's not ducking, he's actually fighting. This fight, I'm shocked that Manny Pacquiao hasn't come under fire for the same thing. You've got to be kidding me that you're not having this fight with Crawford. That's just ridiculous. Also, we have another fight coming up. We have, who is it? Oh, Triple G. Triple G is going to fight Brandon Jacobs. And this is going to be this is going to be fireworks as far as I'm concerned. Because both guys can punch hard. And as you know, the way Brandon Jacobs handled Sergio Mora in their second fight proved that he can really fight. Not to mention how he handled Kid Chocolate, Peter Quillen. So, there's one of those things where you have to watch out for his punching power. Triple G, as you know, is a machine as well. That guy has some serious punching power as well. Another special guy. And I just really hope that Triple G doesn't do what he's been doing in his previous couple fights, which is let opponents punch him in the face to see what they have. I don't think that he should do that with Jacobs. Because if you give Jacobs that chance, Jacobs is going to make you pay for it, as far as I'm concerned. So this will be another good fight, as far as I'm concerned, that'll be great, and that I feel as though a lot of people really should pay attention to. So some good fights coming on the horizon. I believe there's some fights this week also coming up on Showtime. I believe the Olympian, I forgot her name, but the two-time Olympian, she'll be fighting on, I believe it's Showtime as well, coming up this week. So women's fighting, women's boxing, I will definitely be tuning into that as well. Now let's move on. I'm doing this because I want to move on to UFC real quick. I have a real big problem with UFC. The card wasn't that bad. I mean, I know a lot of people want to talk about Woodley and Wonder Boy and how slow it was and the crowd was booing, and I don't want to get on that because, look, you have to understand Woodley's going to do what he has to do to retain his title. That's a given, all right? My problem that I'm having right now is Alistair Overeem and Mark Hunt. Now, for those who don't know what's been going on this late, Mark Hunt came out and said that the UFC forced him to fight Alistair Overeem, all right? This is before the fight happened. And for those who watched the fight know that Overeem he destroyed Mark Hunt, all right? But the interview afterwards, I felt, gave me a little bit more respect for Overeem. I used to be a big Overeem fan until I found out he was on the jump. And I was just like, fuck Overeem, you know what I mean? He's on the stuff, fuck him, you know what I mean? And my opinion hasn't changed of him since, okay? We also know that Overeem does have somewhat of a glass jaw, but let's keep going. The fact that Dana White came out at the interview and said about Overeem that this man shouldn't have fought that night. He shouldn't have fought Mark Hunt. He was sick as a dog. He was throwing up. As a matter of fact, he was throwing up before the fight. In the hotel room, he didn't think he was going to make it to the fight. But Overeem, being sick as he was, still went out there and performed. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, that's his profession. He should, and he gets paid to do it and everything. No, when you're that sick, all right, I'm shocked that he even got in the octagon being that sick. We talked about this before. We've seen fighters who've gotten in the octagon who have been in horrible shape, like Chris Lieben, where he would be sick, or he'd be injured, and he would be hopped up on drugs, and he's still out there in that octagon and throwing blows with people, going trading with people. And you're like, what the fuck? What's going on? And it's one of those things where fighters have to take their opportunities as they come. They have to. Because you don't know when the next time is coming. We've seen as of late a lot, especially in the previous year, when fights are announced, something happens, they either get delayed or they get canceled. The UFC has been hit a lot with that last year, all right? Especially their big super fight, which, they promoted John Jones and Daniel Cormier, too, and then we saw what happened with that. You know what I mean? Multiple times, you got, drugs was a problem at one point. And then, steroids, and then, or PEDs in general. And it's a huge problem. So a lot of fights were canceled. People were plug and play. And now we're seeing that Cormier and Johnson 2 is getting ready to happen. So hopefully both guys can stay healthy. Because remember, Cormier got hurt at one point. Even during Cormier-Jones at one point. So he got hurt. Hopefully both guys can stay healthy. And we can see what comes on the horizon with that. But I have to give credit for Alistair Overeem for being so sick and so hurt. And still going out there and performing. I mean, don't get me wrong. The other fights were great to watch. We saw a number of fights. There was one fight, I can't even remember, and it's sad I can't remember because there's so much fighting that happened this week. I didn't get a chance to watch Bellator. But, fight of the night, I felt, was the one guy who was a Muay Thai fighter, and the other guy was a mixed martial artist. And you actually saw skills on display. It wasn't, a lot of groundwork. It was absolutely striking. And it was 100, like every punch was 100%. They had serious intention to hurt each other. It was an amazing fight. To see some of the counters. Usually when someone throws a kick and you catch their kick, the number one rule they tell you, when you catch someone's foot, you go up because it makes them fall backwards. That's what you do. No, this guy put the foot to the side, did a spinning kick, heel kick to the face. Like, they were just going at it. And it was great to watch. It was an amazing fight to watch. I almost feel like I'm disrespecting them by not remembering their names. But no, like I said, it was a great weekend. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to see Bellator, which kind of sucks. Hopefully I can keep up with some of this stuff. Like I said, it was a huge sports weekend, so it's kind of hard to sit down and try to catch everything in a row, not to mention, doing stuff in real life, and it's really hard to keep up. So I will talk to y'all then next week. We will see what comes on the horizon. I'll talk to you then. Y'all be safe. I'm out.